What's going on, beautiful people? In the last video, I told you about the turbo ecosystem tank you can see behind me. Yeah, it failed. Something's gone wrong in it. There's hydrogen sulfide, a strong smell of it on the roots. The roots have turned black. I think there's just way too many nutrients in this soil, or this specific brand of soil maybe, I don't know, but I'm switching back. This is compost. Like I keep saying soil, it's compost. I went for something different. On a previous tank, I used topsoil and it's working so well. This one, not so much, but I want to try and save the plants. Because as you know, plants aren't cheap. Now the fish are all good and healthy, there's no problems with them at all. They're really active and the water parameters have come back really good as well. It's just this root system, look at that, look at those roots. It looks awful. And over here on some of the Monte Carlo that I've pulled up, blackened again. I don't know if it's past the point of return, it could be. I'm hoping not, but I want to get these plants out, get these fish out and reset the substrate system to one that I know is working well. And this tank down here is the one that is doing well. So this is the topsoil ecosystem tank, working an absolute treat. We've got a sand and gravel substrate. We've got soil right underneath. I don't think it's you're gonna pick that up for it. There we go. There's the soil, then well, soil, sand layer, and another sand layer. But yeah, this tank doing fantastic. I'm going to go back with that system again over on the other one. But the first job is to get the plants out, get the fish out, and then we can go from there really and just see what we can do next. Hopefully these plants survive. The substrate though, getting rid of that straight away. I don't trust it. I don't trust it at all now. There we go. There's the layering. There's the compost section and then gravel on the top. It's just weird. Look at this. All this sort of weirdness about it. I don't know what's happened. It's an odd one. I just won't use that particular type again, that compost. Go back with topsoil. Now usually in a situation like this, I would be saving all of the substrate to reuse, you know, if I've broken down a tank. This one, no, I don't like this stuff at all. That compost is just way too potent, or whatever. It stinks. My whole studio currently just stinks of farts. Oh, I'll get rid of it. Okay, there we go, the clean template. We can now start again with the good old topsoil. This is the one that worked really well. I'm sticking with it. To be honest, this topsoil's pretty good. It's just a few pebbles in it, and we're going to be mixing stone on top anyway, so I might as well just not bother wasting my time sieving it. It's all good, we can go straight in. Now, as I did before with the topsoil tank, I am going for an inch all over. Now I know quite a few sources say that you need like a lot more than that, but that's not what I did in the other tank, and it's worked an absolute treat. So stick with what's worked for you. Pay attention to other people's advice and, you know, take it in as best you can, but always go by, like, I always find my own experiences often counteract some stuff I hear, because sometimes the people saying it are just regurgitating what they've heard and they've not even tried it themselves. So yeah, guess what I'm saying is don't be afraid to try things for yourself. You know, like that last one didn't go right, so what? Don't do it again. But as long as you learn from it, and that's the main thing, isn't it? And also that's the fun thing as well. Okay, for me, that is the perfect amount. I'm going to be sticking in the API root tabs again, because I know they're brilliant. I use them in all my tanks, so that definitely wasn't any of the issues before. It's just that horrible compost. So topsoil, some root tabs, all good. And again, I'm just going to break them up and sort of dot them about the place. They crumble quite nicely in your fingers actually, if you want them to, you know. Like for this instance, it's quite good crumbling them, just spreading, you know, all the powder everywhere. If you're planting into the tank that's already full of water, then obviously you don't want to do that because it's not going to get in the substrate. But okay, next up, just going to spray it all down just to make sure that the water's saturated, and then that'll get out any sort of trapped air as well then. Also means we can clean down the sides. Now there isn't a load of organic matter in this topsoil, which means that it's not going to start floating. Like sometimes the soil floats when you try and get it wet, but this stuff looks soaking all that water up absolutely perfectly. And then we cap the top of this with sand and gravel sort of mixed together. Here is some here from a previous scape. Look at that, purely just sand and gravel. That'll work well. Now I want a good 1.5 to 2 inches of this, so if I always like to build it up in this front corner first, and then I can go from there to determine the size everywhere else, or the level, sorry, everywhere else. See what I mean? I've got like a chunk there, and that's telling me that's how I need to continue. then we rinse it all down again. So that is all the foreground plants in. They're not in exactly the same place, and some of the roots on them did look pretty fried. I'm not sure if the blackening means that they're dead on some of them. Some of them they were definitely just melted away, but on the others it was still quite firm roots, so I think they've just blackened them, but they should be okay. I'm hoping they'll be okay. Anyway, so now I'm going to fill it up so I can put all the stems in as well. That is all of the plants back in. It looks pretty rough at the moment. That's because everything's bent over different ways. The plants have been in buckets for a couple of days now, just whilst I've been doing this whole thing and redoing it. It looks like on camera I've done this instantly, but no, we've been places, I've been out, you know, I've come back. It's taken a couple of days to actually get it redone, but well worth it, I think. Now, everything's not exactly where it was, but, you know, come back in a few days and this should be looking a lot better than it is now, I'm hoping anyway. So believe it or not, it has now been about a week and a half since we redid the aquarium. It's working so much better, way better than it was before. And this has basically fully confirmed everything for me. Topsoil for the win, none of that like really dense, nutrient-rich compost stuff. It just didn't work. But if you look down here, I was worried that the plants wouldn't bounce back, but they are definitely bouncing back. I mean, look at that glossostigma, which is actually a rather sort of delicate plant, to be honest. It can be, and it's sending out runners. You can see little roots going into the sand as well. I capped this gravel with a little bit of sand, just like I did on the other aquarium, and it's just working really well. Look, all the hair grass still nice and green, everything going back to how it was and how it should be, to be honest. Stem plants in the middle already growing crazy. Look, I'm going to need to trim this very shortly. It's only been a week and a half. I also added about 10 Amano shrimp to this. Oh, there's one in there. I mean, you guys know what Amano shrimp looks like, but struggling with the focus because I'm at a funny angle to the glass. Yeah, also added the floating plants back on the top here, which are now starting to cover the surface. But look at the reds coming through on the Ludwigia. It looks so nice, doesn't it? It's not covered in algae this time either. All the Houtonia at the side here, really vibrant and green. And every single Ludwigia, look, has got really good leaves all shooting off the top. So I'm so happy with how this has bounced back. It's actually time now to put fish back in. And this tank right here is normally my plant hotel, but it's currently the fish hotel for the fish that are in that tank. So we've got all the guppies, female guppies, we've got male guppy, endlers actually. There's a male endler, and the females, we've got some Chiliosporas in there, we've got the Ember Tetra, but what is awesome, just see on the top there, come on, focus, it's so small it's hard to focus. There is a baby endler, there's two baby endlers, the rest must have got gobbled whilst they're still small, but in a week and a half, they've grown up big enough to be able to survive in the tank, which is really cool. It means that we can have some more endlers as well. They're really nice looking, so I was actually really hoping they would breed. Look, I don't know what type they are, I'm no good with the names or the focusing. Small fish are so hard to focus on. Come on, there we go. Come on, there we go. Look at that, really nice colours. I love an endler. Everyone loves an endler, don't they? Anyway, enough of all that. Catch them up, put them in, and now they can just thrive in there. Right, I've got all the fish. Time to put them back into their home. All the temperature matching guys from the other tank, so we're all good. Look at that, straight away. Coloured up because they're all comfortable. Brilliant. And it's like I always say, it's not a fish tank until there are fish in it, obviously. What a dumb thing to say. Yeah, it's looking really good, isn't it, guys? I just removed some of the floating plants because they were covering the whole surface. I've just got a few little sprigs at the front here now, and that means that all the background plants are getting more light. They can take quite a bit of light. This has been set up for nearly 2 weeks now, and we've got those Amanos in there. There's no algae anywhere. Look at the wood. All of the wood is really clean. That's always a good sign. If you've got plants growing fast and you've got clean wood in your tank, like that there, it means that everything's balancing really well. Last time on the leaves of all the, leaves of all the sword were covered in fluffy hair algae as well. Again, way too many nutrients in the water column and in the tank itself, but now they're getting clean, we'll get new growth coming out, and when we do, I can trim off some of the uglier old leaves that have gone around the outside. Right, this is really good. I finally feel like I'm fully sort of nailing what is completely required that's a long way of saying, I feel like I'm nailing the substrate system for the first time. Times I've done it before, I've had really good success with some, and then I tried to replicate and not so much. But this time, 2 times in a row, we've absolutely nailed it, and they look great. Look at that tank. I mean, I'm really happy with how that looks. I mean, it's not scaped, it was more of an experiment, so it's just a bit of wood with the plants, just to see how it went. And I've also done another experiment recently with the saw plants up here. I've done a build video of it. Anyway, that's going really good as well, but slightly different method. So in this tank up here for my ruby tetras, I did it a little bit differently. Oh, I just tripped over. I did it a little bit differently. If you look down here, that just looks like aquasaw at the moment, but let me just increase the ISO. There we go. So look at that. The bottom there is pond compost, not like the compost I used. It's had loads of the organics removed. I think they float the organics off when they fill up with water, skim it, and then you're left with just the nutrients at the bottom that aren't like smelly organics that will break down. But you can just see, look, the hair grass is already sending out runners, and the roots are finding that that compost section at the bottom below the aquasaw, and it's the same over here, and it will be the same everywhere. So that's basically telling me that the plants love the pond compost, which I kind of knew anyway. I don't know why I stepped away from it. Always trying to sort of fiddle though. It's part of the hobby, I guess. So anyway, what I'm thinking, like, hear me out, is why don't I use the pond compost and the topsoil and then cap it with sand? I think that that would be an absolute winner, judging by the results we've got from both tanks separately so far. So we've got this topsoil tank, and we've got the very first topsoil tank here, which is absolutely brilliant. Look at the plant health. Everything's sending runners, everything's growing into each other. The fish look great as well. Let's get a close-up of some of the fish here. Look at these lampies. Look at the coloration. They're just crazy healthy. They look so good. These ones I think are more males, so they've got a lot more of the colour. Look at that orange all on the top. Looks so good, doesn't it? And then there's the golden barbs as well, also looking great. But the thing is, I didn't really scape this tank or the other tank. I just put a few rocks in and sticks because I want to get the plants going first. But what do we say I do the biggest challenge yet? And that would be to do a fully dirted aquascape tank, like proper go for the shape, the structure of the wood and everything, but still use all of that compost and topsoil underneath it all to get the plants growing. I think it's really, really worth an experiment. I think I can do it. Oh, and it just so happens, once I've tidied up the area around it, I have a tank right here available and ready to go. Oh, I can't wait.